Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the State of the Game recap brought to you by the one and only KJ Ontario. And today we are talking about the State of the Game, the recap. We have 23 some odd minutes of the boys in blue, the developers, part of the develop team, or I guess the community managers, not really sure 100% their exact official titles, but nonetheless, we are here today to talk about the state of the game. And there's a lot to talk about, but I'm not going to waste and bore your time. We're going to just hit the main criteria, just give you my opinion on them and what I think. If you go to my previous video, which is a recap, it's actually showing the state of the game. There are timestamps there in the description. They go from 1:47 right down to 21 minutes and 50 seconds. There's a little bit to go over, and let's jump right into it. First things first, the patch 1.7 drops on August 15th, and when that drops, that's Tuesday, August 15th. When that drops, the first global event will drop. So sometimes people are asking, what is the global event? And global events are going to be linked to events and stories that are happening and basically provide an extra layer to the game. And there's going to be a bunch of modifiers for special global events. And there's been a lot of talk and activity about these events. People have really talked about it. But basically, the modifiers are three different modifiers. The first being a global modifier. It's an event on itself. It's always going to be an event that's designed to assist a player in the game world. Now, they can aid a player as well as give you a source of new experiences, and sometimes will help struggling players with a specific piece of content not able to complete it, but they're able to complete it in different ways. So there's going to be some modifiers that are on the global worlds. And group modifiers, they're modifiers specifically, it takes a step in an activity modifier, and they basically retain the positive element of the global modifier with the extra challenge of an activity modifier, basically add a layer to the group that requires tactics and get you to do something different, throw something different in the mix. It basically requires some coordination and teamwork. There's not a lot of detail on it, but they are going to be releasing these soon. The third one is activity modifiers. Basically, they're not only positive to the agent, but they also have a slight challenge on top to push the player to a height. Think of them as something that will work in a tandem with the global modifier and bring you to the same bonus, but at a slight cost. So similar to the underground directives, these modifiers, as well as world tier you're playing in, will help you earn more tokens. And the idea is that you're going to get global event tokens. These global events basically are going to run every month for one full week. The team will be using that time for the global events to run and get double reward style weekend events to create a full calendar of activities. Basically, they're going to be, the whole goal of this game is RNG. You're trying to go and grind for more gear to make your build better, to be able to go and have better luck competing against other agents. And part of all of this is just to help you get more stuff. Basically, to compare what you've got, sell or break down what you currently have that's not as good as the new gear you're going to get, and help you build your builds out a lot better. They are allowing you to change the look of your character, the appearance of your character. So that's kind of cool. For example, if you are wearing sunglasses and you don't want to wear sunglasses, or you have specific things you want to kind of change with the appearance of your character, you are able to take it to the next level. There are 3 sets of classified gear that are going to be dropping. and kind of cool. Played around with it a little bit in the PTS, and it's going to be interesting to see how they roll it out in 1.7. Basically, they're dropping Lone Star, Deadeye, and Final Measure. So no real crazy updates with them as of yet, but if you don't know what classified gear is, you're basically going to take your 4-piece build and make it into a 6-piece build. So basically, classified gear is always going to roll a higher value than your standard gear equipment. Currently, the gear max and level with your main stats, so your armor rolls on your current stat, and also on the firearms, stamina, and electronics drops. They go between 1,014 and 1,272. Classified gear, however, drops with a higher stat roll of 1,273 to 328, so you do get a little bit more of a bump when it comes to your firearms, your stamina, and your electronics if you're running that gear. The increased range is an actual 35% buff, and basically, even though normalized modes like Last Stand, classified gear acts like in Last Stand, classified gear will act like a standard 256 gear set piece. So the expanded stat range doesn't, create an imbalance. So basically, when you're running Last Stand, everything is still going to be balanced whether you're wearing classified gear or not. The classified gear 5 and 6-piece bonus, though, if unlocked, do take effect even in normalized playing. So it still creates, that little bit of extra bonus while you're playing Last Stand. So the classified bonuses are going to be obviously different than in each gear set. Once a player hits a 5 or 6-piece of their classified gear set in a single loadout, things change. The 5-piece will bring the same buff as 2 and 3, and then add the 4 and 5 piece bonus. So the goal is to get 6 pieces. And that's basically going to maximize that gear set. So the 3 that are dropping this week, this first week is Lone Star, Deadeye, and Final Measure. So yeah, it's kind of cool. The stable talent has changed. What they're doing is before you could level up to level 30. At level 29, you could get weapons that had 35% stability rolled onto the weapon. That's actually going to be reduced down to 10%. I think it's here nor there. I think you can roll for stability in certain situations with certain weapon mods, and if you're really rolling for stability, you can get it. But having a base of 35, it will make that weapon a laser, and so I get it. But I also think if you really are trying to get more stability, maybe you got to try and get a different gun. So nothing really for me to talk about on that. For me, it's here nor there. Ballistic shields, they're really wanting to reduce the use of ballistic shields in PvP. I don't know why. And this is something that can be discussed, but I really think that the PvP ballistic shields are super, super easy to beat. Look, if someone has crazy firearms and can melt people, especially if they've balanced it with a half-decent skill build, meaning they've got a little bit of electronics where they can pulse you like crazy, and their over boost is crazy, their booster shot, they're going to melt you regardless. But if they have the shield, they're limited to the side or to the assault, or sorry, they're limited to the SMGs. That's okay. They can still melt you with an SMG, clearly. But you can really dive around these guys and get some shots on them. Your mobility is a lot better than theirs. And so for people complaining that, the defense build is crazy and overpowered, guys, learn to roll, learn to move, and you're not going to get melted as easily. So, but what they're doing is The ballistic shield itself is going to they're increasing the damage it takes by 20% from players in PvE, and they are, I believe, the classified version of the defense build is going to go from 30% shield health to 10% damage to elites. So I mean, it's going to turn into a little bit more of a PvE build. Again, I don't run it. It's neither here nor there. I guess in PvP, it's probably going to help in Stolen Signal, but yeah, I don't know. Doesn't really do much for me. So they talked about the global event caches. 2 guaranteed drops. The drop rate of a classified piece is going to be 45% per drop. So it's not 90% per drop. It's 45% per drop. Of those, you also have an 11% chance to get an exotic. You have a 43.5% chance of getting just a normal gear set piece, and an extra 12.5% chance of getting a third piece. So on top of the 2 drops, there's a 12.5% drop, basically 1 in 5 drop. 1 in 8 drop, 1 in 8 chance of getting a third piece. And when you get that third piece, there's a 90% chance it's going to be a classified piece, and a 10% chance it's going to be an exotic. So they're really trying to make us farm for, in these global events, farm for the caches, and why not? The whole point of the game is RNG and PvP, so why wouldn't we? They talk about global event tokens, and how they're going to, I guess they weren't stabilized in terms of their drop across the board. They're now going to be, meaning you're not going to get more out of one boss or one named enemy. They're basically normalized in terms of their drop rate across the board. That does tie into the key fragments, I believe, as well. So they also talked about lag. They've acknowledged that there still is lag. If you watch any of my videos, you will see in gameplay that there is lag here and there. But it's not their servers, they're saying. It's really not their servers, and I tend to believe them. I think it's a lot more of, and I am not a internet upload, download, ping expert, but I really think it has to do a lot with tying in from your current and local uploads and downloads, and having a factor tying into those. I'm going to get chewed alive by guys that know a lot more than me on this, and that's okay. But I kind of tend to believe them when they say it's not necessarily their servers, but it's other issues. This weekend, what is the date this weekend? This weekend, the date is I believe the 11th. They're going to drop the 11th to the 13th, and it might be the 12th to the 13th, but they're basically going to have double field proficiency caches. So increase your farming, increase going and getting more loot, and you're going to get more field proficiency caches, which they have an ability, although it's extremely small, but there's an ability to get a exotic out of the field proficiency caches. So that's this weekend. Get out and get farming. They brought up Cronus Max. They have no clue what to do with it. No one does. Listen, if you run at Cronus Max, you are one of the worst players in the game. I don't care how many points you get. I don't care how fast your gun shoots, your shotgun. I don't care how accurate it is. Get rid of your Cronus Max and be a real player. I'm not sure how important it is on a PC, although it will increase the fire rate, but man alive, and I don't even know if you knows a PC, but it is insane if you're going up against a guy that's running a shotgun and using Cronus Max, and it is so obvious. Heck, you can hear it around the corner when he's taking people out. It's typically 2 shots to the head and you're down, sometimes 3, and it will headshot every time and shoot like an MP7. So listen, there's guys out there making videos on YouTube showing how awesome they are with the shotgun, and then you look at it and they're using Cronus Max. Call them out every time. They're such pussies when it comes to this game. They're not going to change, obviously, but it just makes the level of gameplay extremely unfair. And a lot of times their team ends up losing, but they end up getting like 60,000 points. You're not impressing anybody. So Quick talk about global event 1 and 2, but they don't really talk about it. They talk about adept. To me, this is extremely important. If you've watched a couple of my last videos, I talk about adept and how I don't think it's as important as on an SMG as it is on an assault rifle. Another one of the guys I run with would disagree, but I think with an SMG, typically you're in between 25 and 30% base, crit, chance. You run a pulse if it's a blended build, a hybrid build, you're going to have an 18 to 22 percent pulse. So if we just use, basic numbers, stat of 30% base and 20%, you're at 50% of the 60% max already. So if you run adept, you run it once, you're at 57.5. That second time you run it, it's useless. You're over 60. So I don't know. You can always be at 60%, which is great, but you're already always at 50%. That extra 10%, and basically it's one hit of adept to get you to 57.5. I guess it's good. Don't get me wrong, crit chance is awesome, and it allows you to then spec into crit damage. But is a talent like responsive potentially better in that situation than adept? I don't know. I'm not sure. So they talk about adept, and they also talk about that they knew that it's stacked. It wasn't some random find. I'm not sure who first had it. There's been a couple of big names that have dropped videos on it, but they knew about it ahead of time. Quick mention about stash sizes. They talked. One guy on Twitter asked if they could increase it to 1,000. I have 4 characters and they're all maxed out. So that's 120 per character. So that's 480 plus my stash of 150. So I am at 580, 630. I could use another 300 or 400 slots. Listen, every character I want to have, a few different builds on it, and it adds up very quickly between mods, gear mods, weapon mods, prototype performance mods, guns, gear. You can easily have 80 to 100 pieces easily on each character. I've got 4. So with people that have 2, I'm interested to know what you do. And listen, I've got a billion credits on one character, close to 600 million on the other. I sell stuff. I don't hoard it. If you play a lot of Last Stand, you play a lot of Survival, you play a lot of Incursions, you're going to get a lot of caches and a lot of loot. And with the drop of 1.7, I think those loot drops are going to just be even more insane. So I would be up for having stash sizes increased significantly. Loadouts were brought up, and are they going to increase the amount of loadouts? I think they should. I like playing around with builds, and the ability to save a bunch of random builds I think is great. Like if you're trying to play, for example, with like a Firecrest tack build, 3-piece, and then you want to swap out the Firecrest for pick something, Final Measure, for anything, it doesn't matter. I think having like 20 loadouts, for example, would be awesome. Not because we necessarily need all 20, and you're going to have 20 builds you're always going to use, but there should be 3 or 4, maybe 5 slots that you can play around with different builds and have different opportunities, so you're not having to delete a loadout and redo a loadout. So I think that's important. A couple other things I want to talk about. I really think they should make a part of the Dark Zone or a part of the open world. It doesn't really matter. And or let's call it an arena that you can go in with a friend and test different things. Meaning, I put together this sweet Firecrest tack build, for example, okay? A hybrid Firecrest tack build. And I want to try out my flame turret. I've got to go rogue to try it on a friend in the Dark Zone, so then they could give me feedback on how they, how it affects them. But when I do that, then a bunch of rogues come, or a bunch of agents come and want to kill me because I'm either a 19-second or I've killed them once and I'm now a full rogue. Why don't we create just a small arena that we can go into and have it so that we can test gear, almost like the what's it called, the firing range, the shooting range, but the ability to go in with multiple players, even if it's just our group, and try different things. Like, let's see how strong the Seeker Mine is. Let's see how long the shield will last. Let's see how powerful my Flame Turret is. Let's see how, you know what I mean, and go through all of these different builds and try different weapon talents, try all these different things, but not have to worry about the ability to defend yourself with a build that's put together if a bunch of agents come because they see there's rogues up in DZ8. I think that would be extremely cool. That's it. They had a quick talk about 1.8, but they didn't. There was no talk on 1.8. They say there's some big things coming. I'm interested to see. Personally, if you listen to any of my stuff or watch any of my videos, and we talk about it all the time, I think 1.8 is going to be the last patch before the new division is dropped. Don't have any inside information. Don't even know if it's going to be a second division drop, but they would be idiots if they didn't drop it. So there might be a patch 1.8.1, but I think 1.8 is, in my opinion, is going to be the final patch for this, and then I am super stoked if they drop a new division in a different city. The only other thing I could potentially see them doing is dropping patch 1.9 and opening up something like Central Park. It's a shame. New York City has a beautiful landscape. There are so many monumental buildings in New York City that we should be running into and running up against and seeing, like the Empire State Building. Why aren't we seeing that? The Statue of Liberty. How cool would that be to run around? Central Park. Why are we running through Central Park? I understand from the developer standpoint it's a lot to develop, but it's New York freaking City. Let's make it happen. So if they're going to do a 1.9, I could care less about new gear items. I could care less about new weapons. We have all of that. That's all here. There could be some different weapons. Things like grenade launchers would be kind of cool. Like, imagine having an assault rifle with a grenade launcher on it. Being able to, instead of throwing grenades, you have 3 that you can throw in. That would be kind of cool, running around. We run around with hatchets on our back. Why don't we and why can't we use them? The only knife we can use is when we're cutting an extraction rope. I would say there's a lot more things that they could do with the current weapons and setup that they could play with. And I think potentially they will. Who knows? I think it would be extremely cool to get some of those abilities. So, drop a comment in the comment section below. If you've listened this long, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I would love to subscribe. If it's anything I'm interested in, I'll be subscribing back to you. And we just talk about the daily division info, and we love this game. Got a couple of groups we run with. I've got a main group, and we're on every night, and we play a lot of division. I stream a lot of survival, stream a lot of Last Stand. I am a mid-level player. Some of you are going to say I'm horrible. Some of you are going to say I'm good, but I just love the game and love playing it. So if there's anything you can see from me that I can increase, do better with, if there's any topics you want to talk about, if there's anything you'd love me to discuss, leave it in the comments, and I'm always here to talk about this game. Thank you so much. I hope you guys are looking forward to 1.7 as much as I am. There's going to be a couple more updates, so I'll probably be dropping a video this weekend. Thank you, and enjoy the division.